Books.
Okay, books. We got the books. We got books. Okay, I'm ready now. So not only do we have books, but we're talking language arts.
Right.
And a good place to start is, what is language arts? Because
Exactly.
is it different from English? Do people know? What's ELA?
Yeah. And
Answer my question.
But Ruth, you have kind of been working very diligently over a very nice illustration.
And it is confusing what it is. And it's a skill that has multiple facets to it. So we came together with our wonderful marketing team and tried to give a visual for what that is. And so there's like at least 8 basic parts, and each of those basic parts has further divisions in them. But a lot of times we know we need to teach our child to read, right? But then what else
But
is
then
in
what,
there?
right?
Yeah.
Like, do you start spelling when they're in first grade? How long do you teach spelling? Do you cap out on spelling? How about grammar? When do
Yeah.
you start grammar? Is it third grade,
What's
fourth
grammar?
grade?
What
What is
is that?
grammar? You know,
Yes.
all these things. And parents, I think, don't, they're worried that they're going to get it wrong, right? And you can
Absolutely.
get a workbook for this and a workbook for this and a workbook for this, or you can go with kind of a comprehensive vibe. And a comprehensive program is going to include your 8 things. Now, think about this. I want to see if you can name the things.
Yeah. How about you guys?
Okay.
Can you do
Okay. Well, you gave us phonics. What else?
it? Okay.
Phonics leads into reading, so there's reading comprehension.
Okay.
Okay.
Spelling's in there.
Spelling can
Check.
lead into vocabulary, so vocabulary.
There's 4.
Check.
You mentioned grammar.
Grammar. Composition. Analysis. Literary analysis.
Right.
Oh, that's
Good.
8.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
One
a
more.
finger height.
I was like,
the last one?
I'm
We're
only
not
getting
talking
7.
about math today. Where's my right start gal when I need her?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's our 8.
No, we really only did
No, we
7.
had-
Yeah. So phonics and reading.
Phonics, reading.
Handwriting.
Handwriting.
And that means like penmanship, how to actually
Yeah.
make the letters.
Yes,
and that
because
kind
when
of thing.
people say, I want help with writing, what do we say? Handwriting or composition?
composition.
Right. Which
And
one?
Most of
Yeah.
the time, it's composition, and then they'll specify
So you have
Yeah.
ELA, which is like this big umbrella term, which is English Language Arts.
Right.
And all of these 8 different themes fall underneath
Those
English
are the
Language
raindrops
Arts.
under our umbrella.
And this handout is available on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's better shown
David will
over
put
there.
a link.
That's
there.
right. And that can help you check the boxes and see, am I covering everything?
Yeah.
Because this is pretty scary. And in contrast with math programs, they've got it kind of aligned, so you know fairly well that you've got all the parts. But if you are putting together your own program, you need that kind of thing.
Well, and it's also important to know that like these things happen at different stages in a child's development.
Not everything every year.
Yeah, a high schooler doesn't need to do a phonics program, you know?
I mean, if they do, you
things
do.
happen at different times
Right.
as they are cognitively developing.
Right. And there's 2 sides of the skills. You know, there's vocabulary where, and then when you're understanding it, and then there's spelling, which is usually what we call encoding. There's the decoding stage where you're trying to understand what you've read, and then there's the encoding where you're producing.
Yeah, you're applying what you've
So
been
you've got an
learning.
input era
Right.
and an output era. Whatever language, makes sense to you, go ahead and use that.
Yeah.
But encoding and decoding are the real terms.
Yes, the
Yeah.
taking
here.
in and the outputting.
Yeah,
And,
that's
you
more
know,
helpful to remember. We
You
can
made
do
a
that.
point about the math programs that I think is interesting. So when you think of a math program, if you're doing a curriculum, it is comprehensive. But
Yeah.
language arts programs, not necessarily.
Right.
You might have a grammar and composition. You might have a separate handwriting book. And then you might do literature as you like. But
Throw in spelling as needed.
what if you're the kind of person who's like, I need it pulled together?
Yes.
Or maybe this year I need it pulled together.
Yes.
Later on I can do my own thing.
We'll freestyle.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
something funny here. I need a 1-book approach looking at all of these books on the table.
What?
1-book approach, please.
This is a 1-book approach. What? Say what?
Yeah.
Let's get into that. So
Yeah.
these are 2 comprehensive ELA programs, and I like to call them the go-tos. When somebody wants something tidy. So the neat thing about these, so let's talk names first. We've got Lightning Literature, and we've got Learning Language Arts through Literature. So what do they have in common already, right? Literature is our
Literature-based.
anchor.
Yes.
Right.
So we'll call this Lightning Lit, we'll call that LLATL.
Did have a customer use the term LLATL.
That's awesome.
And I'm
I mean-
like,
that's the first time for me.
I know. I'm like, that does come off the tongue a little bit better than LLATL.
It's less bad.
It's less bad.
I don't know if I'd call it good.
LLATL.
So in these two programs, we're going to look at first grade, which is going to be entry level.
Phonics, some phonics
For each
stuff
of
in
these.
there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then we're going to look at a fourth grade. And then we're going to look at an eighth grade. So we're looking at that entry point, what's the same, what's different. Fourth grade, they're very similar. And eighth grade, they both have a focus of getting your composition ready for high school. So let's look at level first grade.
Yes.
And as we go along too, we're going to look at what changes in those grades, because each of those grades has a different focus, no matter if you're using a full curriculum or not, because there are these transition stages and skill
Yes.
level, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like with math, you've got these
So
changes.
a big deal between these two is the expectation. So Lightning Literature has an expectation that your child has some handwriting skills and phonics skills.
Yes.
They're not reading these books.
No.
You are reading these books to them.
That's good. 'Cause,
one a
that's
week.
a little formidable, right?
Yes, we're not asking the child to read these books,
No.
and we'll look at those books in a second. You've got a teacher's guide that's going to tell you day by day what to do, and then we've got
show off
a
that?
consumable student book.
Okay.
So this is our one book approach, right? And in this book,
This is
it's going to tell you
meaningful.
to read these books. Now, okay, these are awesome, right? You can buy all these, but you can also get these at a library. So because it's 36 weeks, guess how many books? We got 36
36
books.
books.
Yeah.
And I just want to show them because they're
And
so gorgeous.
the one thing
Yeah,
I
let
loved
me do that,
about
'cause
these
you guys
books
can talk. Sorry.
is it's like you're taking a trip around the world with these
They're so good.
literature options. You know, you have
Yeah.
my favorite, Harold and the Purple Crayon, but then you also have Wabi Sabi over there.
Yeah.
Like you're going all over the place with
They're
the
all
literature books here.
over. And that's something with Lightning Literature. This gal, the author, really pushes you out of the familiar, and yet,
We've got very old books.
there's some good
Aesop's
oldies.
fables are in
Yeah.
there. Like so it's
Oldie goodies.
a combination of the comfortable and then the pushing the
A
limits.
little global. A hello goodbye window. Oh, my kids had this one. It gets
Yeah.
down to a button.
Yeah.
Remember that?
And several of these were read to me as a child, so it
Yes.
tells you that they
yeah, we
are.
joked about it's not antique, Ruth. It's vintage.
It's vintage.
It's
Vintage
retro.
right
It's
here.
nostalgic.
Yeah.
Oh, here's Ducklings.
That's one of them. Yeah.
Here's
It's
Grinch.
Just
Yep.
a great selection of
Richard
literature.
Scarry.
Of 36 literature books that you'll be reading.
Right.
So you're pretty
your
much
year.
building a home library.
Yes.
In the process of teaching first grade, but keep in mind, they're going to use their handwriting. They're not going to instruct handwriting. Now, in contrast,
Yes, in contrast.
I want to show you. And keep in mind, we've got videos on these.
Yes.
There's
Oh,
an
good point.
overview.
Yeah.
And you can also
Yeah.
go grade by
So you
grade.
can dig in there
Yeah.
with those.
Yes.
Yep,
That's
so
super.
In contrast, then, LLATL, they bring in a little bit of phonics. They bring in phonics.
Well, this all
at-
comes
at
in a
this level.
box, right?
Yes. So you'll get which one is this? That one's the student activity book.
Okay.
And then you have the teacher's book. Right on the cover, it's telling you all of those things that are going to be instructed in here. Phonics, reading, spelling, grammar, vocabulary, handwriting, and higher order reading.
So that one's actually teaching handwriting and
Yes.
phonics.
And so like in the box, you also get little packages of wonderful readers. So these ones are the readers. Those ones are short vowels, long
These
vowels.
are long vowels.
And then-
Heyday, teams are neat.
Yeah, and then
you
a
have
package of the
diphthongs as
short
well.
vowels as well,
And
So you're
along
guided
with some
through that.
literature.
so show me the back of this box because I want to make it clear.
Comes in a nice little box.
You've got the teacher book, the student book, and the readers, but then the read aloud books are sold separate. So
Yes.
games, cute stuff comes in the box.
See in that little packet that's
Right.
in the box. And so this one kind of brings you in like you have your traditional first grader needing to learn how to read, needing to learn how to write.
Yeah.
That's
And it's
where
all
LLATL starts.
Yeah, it's all going to be in there.
Yes.
And these, you'll see, they're excellent choices, but they're also ones that are really tried and true. They've been
Blueberries for
around
Sal.
forever.
Yes.
Ferdinand.
Little house, steam shovel, runaway
Yes.
bunny.
Ruth, I want you to read this one for us.
I heard that she
That's
has
a-
an Italian accent.
I'm not sure what kind of accent it is, but
Oh, the caps are for
there's a
sale.
little bit of that going on, yes.
So
Yeah.
you have, those books are not in the blue box. So blue is first grade, red is second grade. Those two levels of LLATL come in the box with readers, teaching phonics, teaching handwriting, and then at third grade, so I just put this together, you know. Blue is first place, first grade, red is second place, second grade, yellow, guess what, third grade.
Yep.
And then after that, it doesn't make, the colors are just
right.
kind of
Yeah.
willy-nilly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's how I remember. Blue is first, red is second, yellow is third.
And we have videos on this too.
Yes, we've got
Yeah.
videos. There's an overview and there's grade by grade. So
I'm sure David can put some links somewhere. We're asking
ask a lot of David.
Yeah, we really do.
I made him put about 30 links to products last week for the Outdoorsy show. That'll teach him to be on video.
So let's look
So
at
now
next.
we were
So
talking
those
colors.
are very different
Yes.
at first grade.
At first
But they're
grade.
both called comprehensive. They're both going to be covering.
Right.
They have a different expectation for the student. So if you've got a student who's just starting to read, you wouldn't want to go with this one quite yet.
So this is
right?
the Lightning Lit stack of books. This is the LLATL stack of books.
Look at the change
Yeah,
on
need to make a
those.
little point too, because Lightning Lit, we tend to talk about this if you have a very enthusiastic reader.
I mean,
you can
based
kind
on,
of see
based on the reading expectation alone.
Yes.
Right.
that Lightning Lit can either foster a good reader if
Yeah.
you start from the very beginning, or it's a really great one to bring in an enthusiastic reader to a program.
And that's not to say LLATL is less
no.
work, but there is, because you've got those 4 novels, but then you've got poems and excerpts and short stories in the book itself,
Yeah.
where this one has the full novels that you're reading and still using in your grammar assignments, vocab
Yeah.
assignments, comprehension, writing assignments.
And another reason we brought these two is because they both have a Charlotte Mason approach. And what is that? What does that mean?
Well, I
For
know
curriculum.
Charlotte Mason to be good literature. We're going to be reading good literature, which
Yeah.
is appropriate
Yeah.
for definitely these programs, because that's our whole goal, is to bring in literature that you don't normally see in a reading program, honestly.
Right, and you know, something interesting, so just show real quick that this is still the one book approach, right? One student book, one teacher book. Consumable student, each kid needs their own. They're very similar looking.
They are.
That's a little tricky. Make sure you're getting the one you meant to get.
But Charlotte Mason means that you're using the books also as a springboard for the skills. So
Yes.
the
It's your
books are
hub.
modeling
Yeah.
the skills. the
So
re-
you're wanting to work on writing. Well, you're going to be reading good authors to then model the way that they are writing for
and
your
you
writing
might
assignments.
dictate a sentence from the book to the child, and that's how they'll reinforce and learn. Like capital letter goes at the beginning, a period goes at the end, and those are some of those.
And that
skills.
context that comes when you're doing something literature-based. So let's say you've got a kid who's doing a grammar workbook or a spelling workbook, or let's say both, a spelling workbook and a grammar workbook. Then you ask them to write something. They're not able to take what they did in that workbook and transfer it into an assignment over here. So when you've got everything centrally connected, they go, oh, that's the grammar.
Yeah.
And here's my writing assignment. It's right there. I'm just taking from here. Instead of taking it from over here and trying to remember to apply that
Yeah.
grammar point, it's all right there. And I
All
think that
intertwined.
that context gives kids who are not making the connections on their own, it does it for you. But from a parent's point of view, you've got all your bases
Yes.
covered.
Yeah. I do want to point out, though, like on the reverse of that, a full kind of ELA program can also help highlight where an assist is needed. Like you're going through and you're like,
good point.
oh, even though grammar is interconnected with what we're learning, they are really struggling
With
to
the
understand grammar concepts. Let's bring in that grammar workbook, or let's
Yeah.
bring in a spelling workbook.
Yeah.
But now it's in support
It's
of
in
what you're doing
support,
here.
yes.
It's not as separate.
Yeah.
And that happens, particularly with LLATL. You'll hear parents say, we need more handwriting practice, we need more spelling practice, or we need more grammar practice. That's not to say there's not enough
don't,
in there.
Don't just throw this, out. Supplement it.
That is
Yeah.
when
That's-
supplements are used to their best
Yeah.
benefit.
Right.
Is when you've got
Exactly.
something and you just need a little more practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're still making those connections. So interestingly, as different as these two programs were in grade 1, they're very similar.
Yes. Yeah.
They both have Monday through Friday. Am I upside
You're
down?
upside down.
It's hard to tell. They're very colorful. Look at these trees. Boy, they're into trees this year.
Well, and pointing out, we always bring our convention samples on
the
here
stickers.
with the stickers,
Yeah.
and so you can see one difference: Christian-based, neutral-based.
Yeah.
But another similarity then is this is a medium teacher involvement. This really is
Right.
not just hand it to
Yeah.
your student and walk away.
no.
No, but it's definitely in that open and go category,
Yes.
which
Yes.
low
Low
prep,
prep,
high
high
interaction,
involvement. Yeah.
which I think is the sweet spot because
Yes.
it's using your time as the parent teacher the most effectively. It's respectful of your prep time. But it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And when something is like that, I know I'm yakking too much.
No, I was thinking that this is where grade 4 is that transitional space where we're getting our student prepped for more independent work.
for their output era.
I'm sorry.
Done with the
I
inputting.
can only
You're gonna
think
be
of one
outputting.
thing. But honestly, because it's really hard for a child to there are maybe a handful of children who can really learn to read on their own. They need that guidance. So that first grade, second grade, and as we get to
Yeah.
fourth grade, they are transitioning so that in
They
middle
still
school,
want interaction.
Absolutely, but these skills should be solidifying because most curriculum outside of language arts is expecting that child to start reading to
Yes.
learn in the 4th, 5th grade.
Yes.
And so this is the great time to really make sure that those skills are solidified and supplement
Yeah.
when needed.
Yeah.
You know, that also makes sense that's when you notice a lot of reading struggles, like a dyslexia
They stick
or a
out.
processing, they stick out because we
Yes,
flip
like,
the script on
we're
this kid.
starting to transition into.
And it's like,
Yeah.
how long has that been a thing?
Yeah.
A couple of years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens in math too. The 4th grade,
does.
5th grade really starts showing you what else we need to do.
What are we working with?
Yeah.
Where do we need to help?
Exactly. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
You know, both of these programs you've got first grade, I guess you could do the blue program in kinder if you wanted to, but it's
Depending on
designed
your
about
child.
first grade.
Yeah.
So they both go first grade through 12th grade.
Which I love.
And the high school on both, excuse me, both of them has that Charlotte flavor for high school, which is reading books and writing papers. Not a lot of assist. You've got more assist with Lightning Lit in high school than you do with LLATL. And
More
we could talk about that in
independent.
another video.
Yes. Yeah.
But I wanted to look at these books real quick before we look at the 8th grade. These are just
sure.
so cute, aren't they?
Yeah.
I loved the borrowers.
The Dreamer, Tuck Everlasting.
They're
Some
just
other
kind of
culture where the mountain meets the moon.
Yeah.
Family
Good
Under
cultural
the Bridge.
reading,
Yeah.
again.
Morning Girl. Thinks
There's a
Vietnam.
richness to these books, and
A lot of cultural exposure as well.
Right.
With
Yeah.
this lightning lit choices.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
And you know,
awesome.
the books for these ones are great too.
Oh, and this one is that's more nonfiction, actually.
is.
And we have, the
these-
biography in here as well. And then Ben and Me.
Yep.
So,
And
good
you'll see the
historical books.
choices are much more traditional in their, they've been around for a long time.
Did you know Ben and Me is written from the point of view of that little white mouse on his
Yes.
hat? Yes. I just learned that. Am I the last person to know?
Well, I read those with my kids, so that's how I
I
know.
had no idea.
Yeah,
I looked
absolutely.
at something for that and I went, oh, that's
So should we
darling.
go to middle school?
Let's jump to 8th grade.
Okay.
So
Middle school,
very
mutation
different to
age.
very similar. And now
Let's see
we're
here.
similar again. but with some different components here.
Okay, I have the literature there.
All right.
We're shuffling. We gotta shuffle a bit.
There's too many books.
Yeah.
Take that back. That's not. You're not allowed to say that in a book
This is
company.
new, right? With Lightning Lit.
Yes,
It's a new,
we'll look at that. So are we good? Or we have a clean palette here? All right.
Yes.
So the
I
grade
need
book
some
of LLATL. Show us the 4 books you're reading there first.
So Lantern in Her Hand, we have, and Eric Little. This is a biography.
I like how they're always
And
putting a biography in
They
there.
are Daddy Longlegs, and then this is an autobiography, God's Smuggler, and so you've
Such
got
a good one.
2 Christian ministries missions books, and then this is about Webster, I believe. I might be wrong. This one, anyway, Daddy Longlegs. I'm
Longlegs.
not sure, honestly.
So much more emphasis on composition. We're getting out of spelling. Oh, I better say the spelling thing. Lightning Lit. Okay, so Lightning Literature. It has spelling in there.
yeah.
When we first started to carry it, a customer's like, where's the spelling? It's not explicit.
No.
It's sort of the backside of the vocab, where you're using it in a sentence, you're finding a definition,
Yeah.
you're spelling it, you're saying it, you're learning it, you're using it. I look at that and go, it's right there.
Yeah.
But the customer didn't see, and it was new to us, we didn't really know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
they don't have like spelling list,
And, yeah.
spelling quiz.
Yeah.
So there's an instructional aspect that kids need sometimes at the lower grades, and
That you might add
you
in
might need.
a spelling workout or something like that.
And then there's that absorption kind of ability.
Right. So I almost
Yeah.
feel like this is for a more intuitive language arts reader wordy kid to some degree.
But hopefully by 8th grade, you are prepping for high school, right? You've got
You're working
many of these.
independently.
Yeah.
And
You've got a lot of those skills handled.
I always like to point out with Lightning Literature, it's almost like, so you're going to come in at 8th grade, but it's almost like they're teaching to the skills of the grade above that.
Above.
And I can see that represented in the literature selections alone.
Yeah,
Because To
we've
Kill a
got-
Mockingbird, I read in high school. Hobbit, I read in high school. Christmas Carol, I read in high school. And so
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
you can tell that the Lightning
Yeah.
Literature is so designed for those kids that just want to devour
Read,
books.
So
read.
booky language kids.
Yeah.
Which makes like LLATL a good option for a less enthusiastic reader.
And you might have a kid, like 2 kids in your family, and one of them's doing Lightning and the other one's doing LLATL.
Right. And
You
by
know?
8th grade, they're really working independently. So here's something new. Lightning Lit in 7th and 8th grade.
Yes.
We have a
They came out
video
with
on this specifically, don't we?
not yet.
I mean, a copy and curriculum one. Didn't we talk about this?
I think
I
we
think
did.
so. You might want to fact check us there in the comments. Have we talked about Tempest before?
We talk about this so much that
Yeah.
I may have
Where am I?
imputed that.
What's going on? Where am I supposed to be? So they replaced their 7th grade and 8th grade with these 2 books. Storm follows 6th
Yep.
grade. Tempest follows Storm. So if you've got an accelerated kid, they go from 6, they go into Storm, but whatever. You can stretch them out as needed. And I think the reason, and you guys did a whole episode on middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Middle schoolers vary. You've got a middle
Yes.
schooler who still needs
Yes.
spelling and grammar guidance, and you've got a middle schooler who's writing essays
Yeah.
Yeah.
independently.
Yeah.
And this, I feel like they kind of made this elastic, so
Yeah,
it would
it gives you
stretch
options.
with
Oh,
them.
that's a good way
Yeah.
to describe that.
So this is volume 1, volume 2 student
each semester.
consumables each semester with a teacher book.
It's very
And the-
engaging text.
It's
the-
nice
the work
looking.
text.
I mean, people like pretty and stuff.
Yeah.
Where the still Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is a 4-day. That's a 5-day schedule.
Yeah.
So you're still teaching your kids
Yes.
clear expectations,
These are-
time management.
Still consumable student books.
Yeah,
Right.
they're going to use a notebook as
Yeah.
well or a computer at this
Yeah.
point.
And then the nice scripted teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
And
yeah.
as the teacher, your role at this point is a lot more on asking provoking questions, right? You know, tell me about this, compare these things, and it's going to give you some of those deeper questions. We're not just, you know, straight reading comprehension. We're getting into the analysis.
And we find this with people who use Charlotte Mason approach, and I use that with my own kids, is that they struggle moving into high school with that skill and like, well, I need to know how to do a traditional essay, and that transition I think is handled well in both of these.
And sometimes that's another point where you find out a kid's writing isn't up to snuff.
Yeah.
And we
kinda
might
sneaks
need
up on
to
ya.
get a formal writing instruction program involved.
Or like one of my kids that did really well in one type of writing, but the diversity was a challenge.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they'll remain nameless.
You know exactly.
My wonderfully annotated catalog here for a reason, because essentially what we've been doing on today's episode is what our wonderful comparison charts.
Yeah, you don't
to
have
do.
to take notes.
Yes.
It's all right there.
So like this one's the language arts comparison chart.
And you don't have to tab them, the
no.
catalog like
She's
she
a
does.
tab maniac.
I am, but these are just so helpful for all of our subjects. They can be found in the catalog. They can be found on our website.
On our
but they kind of
resources
do
page.
exactly what we just did of kind of comparing in one area LLA, LLATL to Lightning Literature or Math
Right.
Mammoth to Saxon. You know,
Yeah.
it's a nice kind of one-stop shop.
And who else is doing this? I mean, I think if you're, I've been on social media a little bit here lately, and I'm looking at things about curriculum, and they're talking about, I used this and it didn't work. So then they go to something else, and it's like, okay, now you can talk about two things. We talk about so many things.
We have to study these things.
in one
and-
afternoon.
It's exhausting.
But that's why there are so many choices,
Yeah,
is
right.
because there are so many different needs, so many different goals. And
All in one
that's-
family too.
Right, exactly.
And we ask, who
happens.
is this for?
Yeah.
Who is this curriculum
What kind
for?
of learner is
Yes.
this?
What kind of
What are
parent?
the needs?
Usually why
What's
when
your current
you-
situation?
When you call us to ask questions, we end up asking you about 15
Oh, the
questions
full
before we
reward
start
treatment.
talking.
Be warned about that.
Yes, and you feel a little nosy.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what have you been using? And
Yeah.
it's like, well, who wants
Yeah.
to know? And it's like, I want to know. I want to know. Because if you did this and it worked well, then I know that you know this skill. Or it didn't work. And
Well, it's running through that family way that we talk about too. That we're, you know, your philosophy, your approach, all of those
Money,
things. Money,
Yes.
individual,
your
Life.
lifestyle,
And you.
and
and
you.
Yeah.
the teacher. You're really important.
Yes, you are.
So call us.
Yeah,
we would
anytime.
love to talk to teachers.
Hey, real quick, don't forget that we're picking a winner from last week's episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you've left a comment, make sure that you check that today.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
we'll leave a message. You got to shoot us an email.
Good job.
We'll get you that goodie.
Good job. All right.